I'm Mycroft Holmes.
I'm at Falconair 111. And welcome back to The Secret World.
Today we have like about an hour-long episode for you, doing a couple quests, doing some of the main story. But we're going to talk with Deputy Andy,
Good to see you.
and he's going to reveal more of his odd past.
There are only so many cops who are just casual
Now, the
about
Walking
human
Dead?
sacrifice.
I can wrap my head around that. They're dead folk, just walking is all. But those other things, tall and pale, slimy as maggots, they washed up with the fog. They came and dragged the townsfolk out to sea, drowned them. Just like my dad with the kittens. He took them out to sea in a garbage bag. Said they were gonna go for a swim. Said they needed the exercise. They never came back. A few years later, neither did my dad. Jeez, I still miss those kittens.
Why would you tell a random dude this?
Yeah,
Dragging
that's...
what looked like eggs.
And then
The
you
big
just
ones, they come out of
pivots
those
right
eggs like
back.
Something from Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That,
They're littered all over the place and guarded. And I'm thinking to myself, Andy, that's got to mean something. That's got to be a clue. Why keep an eye on something if it ain't valuable? That's police work. That's deduction, plain and simple.
so proud of you.
So I'm thinking, what came first, the maggot or the egg? Obviously the egg, right? Hey,
And now the pop-up tricked me into thinking I had points I could spend, but I didn't. So, watch me futz around with the video for a second.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. But yeah. Sometimes the characters are... Well, the characters are almost always vibrant. Sometimes they're more, out of this, realistic than others. It's like...
Yeah, the character writing in this is very good. You get a feel for everyone you interact with.
But sometimes, like, I think my issue with Deputy Andy is that he's a little tonally dissonant, because this game does tend to, it doesn't take itself crazy seriously, but when it's making fun of itself, it tends to go like darkly sarcastic, and he's just talking about his dad drowning kittens like it's something like it's casual conversation. It just doesn't mesh very well.
Maybe it's a small town thing. I mean, you hear a lot of bad stuff about small towns, and I think this counts.
Well, I mean, Kingsmouth
It
is...
sounds like something a Stephen King character would think or say.
I suppose. I'm not actually very familiar with Stephen King, so I can't say either way. But
It sounds like something from one of his short stories. Which I highly recommend his short story collections. They're all phenomenal.
I'm more familiar with Lovecraft short stories, which I am not proud of.
Hey now, he's very influential, even if he is insanely racist.
This is a guy so racist. He had an existential crisis when he discovered he might have been part Irish and wrote extensively about it.
No, it wasn't even Irish, it was Welsh.
Right. Yeah, it was. He had might have had Celtic blood, and that was enough to just call everything he cared about and everything he valued about himself into question. So, fun thing. How do they... There's an interesting question there. The people that hatch out of those pods are visibly different from the people who've come wandering back up. At least I get that impression.
Yeah, I'm not sure if these are like Invasion of the Body Snatchers style pods where they shove you in them and you turn into stuff, or if they're like eggs.
They look kind of like eggs, I think.
And here I get myself in a little bit of trouble.
Well, we had the various folks in chainmail earlier, and they look kind of corpsey, if I remember right. More so than what are they? The newborn sea collars.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's the incubators there, which if those things are what's sitting down and turning into the things that hatch sea collars, and those are probably just being turned into eggs.
Yeah, I believe that's the general gist of what's happening.
Oh, I did look up what Vega meant, and it means roughly cursed or supernatural.
Yeah, there's a number of different levels of these things. Like different areas will have them have different Norse or words.
So they're palette swaps.
They're all palette swaps basically. They don't even swap palettes, they just have a name difference.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how you distinguish them. It's a name and a level difference.
That's what's the term? Cephalopodic?
Yeah. We see a lot of things with tentacles in this part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you will see a lot of things with tentacles when it comes to the filth in general. They really lean into that vague aesthetic.
Well, the filth have always been more... They're like that black goo from the X-Files movie, basically.
It's infectious slime, I guess. Is that a mini boss off there?
Yeah, I don't think I fight him. I do fight a couple mini bosses in this game, in this video.
I do fight him. That's... Yeah, at this point it's pretty clear. This ain't zombies. This is something else that just happens to look vaguely familiar.
Well, it's both, actually.
Oh, I mean, strictly speaking, zombie apocalypse is more what I'm going for there. They are
right.
They,
This isn't just a zombie apocalypse. There
Yeah.
there is more going on here.
Mhm.
The zombies are incidental to what is going on here. Yeah, if you see the person I just looked at with double pistols, that's supposed to be another secret worlder.
Mhm.
And please tell me in the thread if you'd like me to continue doing this fusion stuff and the leveling up on screen. Because it does give you a feel for the grind of the game, but I don't want to drag things down too much.
I do remember. This reminds me of crafting the original. And I took 2 looks at it and moved
No,
on.
crafting the original was much more complicated.
Oh
This
yeah,
is just
I said reminds.
slot
no.
items. Okay,
It's
yeah.
just like, and that it was a mess that I never bothered with. So to some extent, if you did just about all the side quests and got all the stories in an area, you were more than well enough level to advance to the next place, advance to the next area.
That's true here as well. But those things they up you for making a lot of the mini bosses easier and stuff like that.
Down the road I didn't go. That's how I ended up here. Up to my elbows in machine grease, rigging bombs. Relax, my friend. I got plenty of experience blowing shit up.
Comforting.
I got a
Do you think
handle
that's
on
Steve
death
Blum
and the
as well?
instruments thereof, and no
I
desire to see the
don't
evil
know,
darkness
but
of
I
the
do
enemies
know
of
he's
the
very
earth.
zen in the art of
These
motorcycle
servants
maintenance.
of the Reaper will stay still and silent.
He's a very philosophical character for being a biker.
And a
Traveling in
bomber.
big countries taught me everything from bull riding to bonsai. Enough to cause a man to lose his appetite for destruction. but circumstances require us to yield to the greater good. Even when that greater good isn't all that pretty. Road here said I'd be pitching in with soft-shell lobster season. Instead, I
Oh,
found
that reminds me. It was soft-shell crab season earlier, and I went down to the fish market and bought some, and we fried them up for sandwiches. Oh, man.
I can't eat soft-shell crab. It's like I have a thing about insects. I just don't like being around them. And I can keep
Oh.
if I'm eating crab, like, you know, there's a crab claw or something. It's so abstract, I don't care. But soft-shelled crab is just reminding me I am eating a sea bug, and it is just I can't look at it for too long. It's the same with
Okay, that's fair.
yeah. I also had I did visit Maryland once, and I had like an actual crab. I don't remember how it was cooked, but it was cooked apparently how you just like boil crabs, I guess. And that
Yeah, you just boil it with some Old Bay.
yeah, that I also couldn't handle. That was just too many guts. No.
Fair enough.
I mean, like there are things that I eat that a lot of people would over this. I put soy sauce on my pasta. I just eat it like that, and a lot of people just kind of cringe at the whole thought.
That person on the skateboard you saw was another player. And here I fight a mini-boss.
That's a Left 4 Dead character.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got the
Yeah, there he
hoverboard
is.
sprint emote. I've unlocked a couple sprints, but I don't really care. So, I mean, I literally spent the money to unlock the fastest sprint you can go in my base character. That's sprint 6.
And these areas aren't sprawling by MMO standards. Like, I think that I'd say they're substantially larger than, say, World of Warcraft areas or zones, but World of Warcraft also has a great deal more zones in total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a smaller MMO,
It's a deliberately
but
focused
it
experience.
relies on you caring about the story to do it.
For better or
I
for
don't
worse.
think most people care about Warcraft's story.
Well, you'd be surprised. They used to, at least. I don't know. There comes a
Yeah,
point where you release too many expansions.
I hear Blizzard did some stuff that everyone was pissed off about, but
They've done that multiple times. I think Hilloff, I used to be into Warcraft 3 and Frozen Throne era lore. They've done... You can really... Oh, fair enough. But that's like... Where even was I? Oh, right. You don't expect real-time strategy games to have plot or interesting characters, but Warcraft 3 did. Something kind of blindsided people from what I remember. They kind of roared through that so well. Here's me talking about MMOs
I
haven't
should
played in
know.
about 10 years.
I should know we're going to Jack and Wendy's Bed and Breakfast, which is a reference to The Shining.
It's appropriately... that is appropriately isolated.
Yeah, there's a little mini quest I actually do here as well.
Oh, collecting Kaylee later. Are we making a bomb?
The current main quest we're on is to make a bunch of stuff to kill zombies.
So,
But this little mini quest is go find the person who killed themselves.
There's Jack, I believe. think we're in like, let's see, what is this? Yeah, we're still in like core lore, so to speak.
Yes.
There are a bunch of area limited sub area, I guess, limited lores that but those are well away from where we are right now.
Yes.
Actually, no, I remember there being lore at the end of this specific pier that was like,
Well, there is. It's on the ship, and it's about the Lady Margaret. And
there
I
you
do
go.
some very poor platforming to try to get it.
Well, and there's a Spectre. For some reason, there are ghosts in this game, and for some reason they dress like people from the 20s, from the previous 20s. I'll never get tired of the mission reports.
Yeah, I waste about 3 minutes here, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's and you have to like hold down E to interact with it to actually get it. You can't just
F.
nab it.
Yeah, you can't just walk over it. You have to get up to it and press F. So I try for a while, and I eventually get it, but it's I'm sorry. I'm just imagining like someone watching this through binoculars, because canonically other people cannot see the lore. It is literally just something only other secret worlders affected by the bees can see.
Mm-hmm. And it's worth noting that not all secret worlders are bees. And in fact, that
yes,
bees being this common in the secret world is actually really, really new. And other characters in the various hubs will talk extensively about that.
And they're all a little afraid of what that means.
Yes. But they do find it kind of convenient. They'll talk about how that means that they can if I remember right, they've toned down a lot of the inter-society warfare and intensity, specifically because they can send bees out to fight and die, and they'll respawn without issue because they're immortal, which takes a lot of the tension out of life or death struggles, because you can just throw them at problems, and whoever takes something and holds it can just do so without having to worry about losing talent or causing trauma to your soldiers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the original there was like a whole, maybe not capture the flag, but capture territory multiplayer game mode thing. I never participated in.
You mean Shambhala?
Yes, probably.
Yeah, that's still in. There's still PvP modes. I never play them because I don't see why you would bother playing them.
Sometimes for an MMO, this is a single player game. It's kind of baffling that that's the case, but it really is. So it's kind of odd that you have such absolutely multiplayer content. Again, this just isn't built for it. But I guess it is an MMO, so they probably had to do that. Some exec stepped in and told them. I swear, I don't know if this is still the case. I swear that occasionally if an incubator made it all the way onto land, they'd fall over and turn into one of those egg sacs. I don't know if that was ever a thing, or if that's still a thing, or if anyone...
I don't know. So, I think I should say something about the combat in this. What you're seeing is 99% of all combat.
Mm-hmm. They do give...
It is serviceable, but it's not the focus of the game. The focus of the game has always been on the writing, which I appreciate.
And they do go. And I think we've talked about this before, and we will almost certainly talk about this again. They do go out of their way to make sure the kill this many random monsters quests have actual have stuff going on rather than just this was a thing that happened to some rando wants you to go kill or hunt for them, it makes all the difference. It is genuinely weird to see a single player MMO, but that's how the secret world runs in many ways, unless you're purposefully going through some of the dungeons.
Unless you're doing dungeons, raids, or lairs.
And I never do multiplayer content in games if I can avoid it. I have no idea how. Do people go through dungeons and just pick up the lore and then read it later, and just sit and watch the cutscenes like movies?
That's essentially what I did for the 2 dungeons I've cleared. I did 2 dungeons in story mode that I was over level for, but the 3rd one kicked my ass pretty hard. So, I mean, I might show off dungeons. I might not. It depends on if I can get a group together for some of them. Because some of these you need to be level 50 and have tanks and healers and DPS, and I don't understand all those roles very much, so.
Hey, and they zombie firefighters with axes. It does seem kind of weird that they have so many firefighters that were all either hanging out here or left and came back to here specifically. Because most of these folks, they didn't die and get zombified immediately. A fog swept in, and they all walked off and came back like this. So, and it is kind of odd. They do tend to gravitate towards places that they used to either live or work. I have no idea if the lore ever talks about their accounts for that. I remember this.
I don't know. I've been working to fill out my museum on my other character, and it's a lot of anima fragments. And there's no easy way to get anima fragments other than completing missions or selling stuff you get from missions. And I don't know how well this game is policed for cheaters. I've literally never seen anyone cheating, but I can tell you for a fact there are no cheat programs online. It is that little regarded.
Yep. It's kind of old. The story is the point. So people trying to game the system don't have that much investment in it. I don't know, and it's just. Yeah, I remember this particular area. Oh, the 1712 fire is something that I'm gonna need to look up. Since now that it's shown up, I can probably start dropping hints, though I don't actually have them right now. So there's that. Look forward to that. And I do like how the maps are all they have certain diegetic origins. This is a tourist map, and several of the other things maps are tourist maps or surveys or hand drawn in some way that you just follow them around as if like any other game map. But it's a nice little touch.
Yeah, I've been grinding achievements and stuff in my other character, and oh boy, some are difficult. There's one that's a bunch of platforming. It's called the floor's lava, and you have to do a bunch of platforming in a junkyard, and I have never been able to figure out how to do it.
This is not the game for platform.
I know, and they put so much of it in here. We'll see more once we get to Egypt. There's a lot of it in Egypt, and it sucks.
Yeah, they really do try and vary the formula, but it doesn't always work. It isn't always necessary.
I appreciate that they try and do that. I mean, a lot of MMOs you just see 4 different types of missions or something. And here they're like, no, I want to do a bunch of different shit.
Mr. Freeze. Well, that's new. Is this a guy who shows up in a quest, or is he just a random mini boss?
Random mini boss, but you do find a Mr. Freezy hat somewhere later in a quest.
Beautiful. Yes. There's
there's a bunch of other. We've only really met characters at the police station. I cannot wait to show you some of the crazies who show up.
Yeah, there are a lot of. There's at least one character that I'm really looking forward to who's just hanging out staring into a crystal ball.
Well, we will go to her house now because we just got a quest to deliver some packages.
Excellent.
But my favorite is the preacher because he, in one of the quest videos, he literally describes himself as a very important Illuminati poster.
Yeah.
He's like, forms that don't show up on Google, and all I could think was, so you're in the Illuminati equivalent of Fiat?
Downloaded Tor and thinks that it's some kind of piece of occult lore.
What could the incantation Tane mean?
Yeah, it's like those people who wash out in first day of basic training and wear camo around for the rest of their life.
Oh god, yeah.
There are a lot of people who like stake them, who identify based on like things that they were adjacent to, are just completely intolerable.
Life is my greatest weakness. Out there on the road, I found serene understanding of just what there is, which is more than I could ever want. And life is too sacred to miss even one single sunrise from nursing a black eye. That said, indifference is the greatest.
Philosophical biker is the modern equivalent of the philosophical barbarian who talks about society, how it's the peace of nature.
Yeah, I tell you, there's a real enlightenment to be found on the open road, with no witness but the cinemascope sky. Solitude's the only.
There's a boomer ass reference.
To be out there on your own is to see deep inside yourself.
It does look a little young to be a boomer, but then this game is at least a decade old.
No fortress against the walking dead.
Well, he's got receding hairline.
That's true. I mean, there is such a thing as somebody who's well preserved, and also this is a video game, so who even knows?
A not very graphically impressive video game, so
like there are
this ain't a David Cage game.
There are impressive things that they do visually later on, but it's not impressive because of the quality of the visuals, just because of the creativity of what they show. Just like there's stuff I can't wait to talk about in Egypt and certain parts of Transylvania.
These sorts of things I hate the most. These are missions I hate the most. They take away all your abilities and they force you to use stuff with cooldowns that will never do as much damage. One that you can do in Egypt is actually, there's an achievement for not letting like your objective get damaged, and it's impossible with one person with the tools you're given.
Well, it's again single player, trying to force a game that's basically single player to be multiplayer. Just does not work very well.
I actually die during this mission. I blow myself up with an IED.
Temporary abilities acquired.
I will say, I don't know whether I like or hate the tier system. because you will switch between very different objectives at very different times, and that's it's nice, but it also means you never know how long your mission's gonna be. Zombies are weak to fire.
Yeah, and triggering some of these abilities that they give you is just hit and miss, and it's not fun.
And this particular mission is, here, have some cool things you can use to blow up zombies. They are completely inferior to your base abilities.
Yes.
And that's just lame. It's like, in game, it makes you feel almost superior to these. It's superior to people who aren't bees and don't have your crazy magic weapon powers. Yeah, look at all the effort you put into building these bombs. I can take a stick and hit a random zombie harder than anything you can produce, if given unlimited resources and several days to work.
And here's where I die.
And since you're a bee, you evaporate and then spawn back in that. Well, you don't quite spawn. You have that, like, repossessed thing. And you can do, like, a Warcraft thing and either respawn at the point or your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. I don't remember for certain.
And here we have a tower defense mission.
Oh, they do want to vary up that gameplay.
And again, I give them credit, but sometimes it just doesn't work.
Was this in the original? It's like, I'm getting some cognitive dissonance here. I swear I remember this, but I also don't remember this.
This was in the original. I played part of the original long enough to get to Innsmouth Academy. Yes, there is a part of the game called Innsmouth Academy.
And it has some very nice and interesting characters, and one boss fight I'm really looking forward to complaining about. And not even intensely, it's just it's a terrible design decision. It's so bad that it almost loops around and becomes irrelevant again. And it ends up accidentally improving that fight.
Yeah, the next area we go to is even more full of Lovecraft and Stephen King references. Like, it gets ridiculous.
Yeah, we're deep in horror country.
Fan service territory.
You're laying all of these mines down here. That's going to cause some structural integrity issues. Actually, it depends on how powerful the mines are, I guess.
Really, all these are is ammonium nitrate fertilizer and ball bearings, so... I mean, I don't know how powerful that is, but it's basically just it's a jury-rigged claymore, so it's not gonna...
That's fair. Yeah, these aren't, like, anti-tank mines or something. That's a particularly dangerous combination for something that's, like, just an unarmored human, but... I'm looking at the, there's a lot. the existence
Yeah,
of,
this is a bit of a long section.
yeah, the existence of feral zombies is fascinating to me because that implies that there's this like civilized zombie out there.
Well, we see them in Innsmouth Academy. That's what the familiars are.
No, familiars are actually something different. Because they didn't use, well, okay. I don't know if talking about the nature of familiars is spoilers, because we haven't even seen them yet.
Yeah, let's maybe keep that under wraps.
Because yeah, it's, we can start to talk about the stuff behind that when we get to the Illuminati creature. So that's another, the mission he gives is a good example of the sort of silly puzzle things that this game does really well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to redo that mission before I film it. Because there's parts of it that you would not get without some serious lateral thinking and Googling.
Mhm.
I actually have it written down on my desk somewhere, one of the codes you need for it.
You really do. There were very, very few puzzles in this game that I did immediately look for a guide. Mostly, largely because I'm really bad at puzzles, but I don't know. I'm not the sort of person who views that as like defeat or feels that detracts from the experience.
Let me put it to you this way: I played Myst 3, Myst and Myst 3, and I beat them both. Some of these puzzles in here are harder than Myst or Myst 3.
Oh yeah, God, some of the later puzzles are really ruthless. I will never, even though I guess this is stuff that takes place in Transylvania, so maybe I already mentioned it. The fact that you have to translate a letter out of Romanian to solve a puzzle is something I will never forget. That's not something that you would expect out of a massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
Especially one that came out before Google Translate was good.
Well, I mean, from what I remember, it was entirely possible to the language was the information you needed was simple enough that you could reliably get it out of a Google Translate. But Google Translate still isn't good, but it's better. There's the hat. The different handlers have different things that they send, have different styles that they respond, and they're usually the ones sending you back those response texts. And they range from dragon cryptic bullshit to Illuminati insulting you and saying you're terrible, and Richard Sonnet kind of sarcastically insulting you or giving you genuine compliments that are just kind of just a little bit grudging, which is part of why the Templars are the best.
The Lady Margaret was a traumatic experience for everyone on board. They were changed men when they came back. I visited with all of them in the days following their return. In my office, there are detailed transcripts of our sessions. I'm afraid it all happened so fast that day there was no time to pack. I hope they may shed some light on what happened out there.
Joe Slater, I know that name. That's a horror thing. I'm pretty sure. Does that ring a bell with you?
No. The only Slater I know of is Christian Slater.
Yeah. I'm probably thinking there's a billion different horror characters named Joe. Wait. That is going to haunt me for the rest of the evening. Oh well. That's the Illuminati Church, right?
Yeah, you can see the occult symbols vaguely.
Yeah.
And the eye pyramid in the stained glass.
Yep. And only barely trying to be subtle. And it's a lot of the manhole covers do have the Illuminati pyramid on them too.
Which leads into a puzzle later.
Yes. Yes, it does. And it's just like, it's like they don't even care.
Well, this we find out that this used to be like the seat of their power in the New World.
Yeah, which is fair, I guess. That was a ways back though. So the Illuminati and the Templars have changed enormously multiple times. Like right now, the Templars are technically the smallest of the societies because they just went through a big. If I remember right, I should probably double check this. But they used to be a lot more aggressive and like imperialist, and went through a collapse during decolonization. Now they're trying to reinvent themselves as professional monster hunters, and all the societies except for the dragon, maybe, who even knows, keep retooling themselves over the centuries, which is kind of nice. Instead, because organizations change over time.
Exactly, but it does mean that the current Illuminati is fucking horrendous.
Yeah, it was never nice, but
it's the worst of corporate. It's the worst aspects of capitalism paired with the worst aspects of secret societies and magic.
Mm-hmm.
It is terrible.
It's like,
and the dragon is just straight up yellow peril.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those weird things where they try and present these kind of racist ideas as if they're positive things for the people involved. Like they flip around the fear into trying to make it empowering. This just doesn't work very well. That's just not how that works. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like the second Iron Man movie.
I don't.
Where they tried to do the Mandarin, and it.
I will say, you can like Black Panther. But did you see the movie? I really hope you saw that movie.
No.
What?
No, I stopped watching Marvel movies after.
Yeah, like I don't watch Marvel movies either.
After Iron Man 3. Yeah, Iron Man 3 was the last one I saw. No, Doctor Strange. I saw Doctor Strange, and then I was like, done.
I think the last mainstream Marvel movie I watched was like the first Avengers movie, maybe. But Black Panther was. It wasn't a Marvel movie. It was something that was just vaguely attached, despite being its own wonderful thing. It's probably out somewhere. It's just absolutely worth watching. But without any spoilers, so back when Black Panther was first released, he had three enemies. There was Ulysses Claw, which was a Nazi with sound powers. There was Killmonger, who was Black Panther's the evil self, like the rival who's similar to you. And then there was M'Baku, his title was the Man-Ape, and he was the stereotype of Darkest Africa that Black Panther was supposed to refute, and it was awful. They took a completely different route with him in the movie, and he's one of the best characters in there.
I'm sorry, whenever I think of the Man-Ape, I think of the bad guy from the Justice League animated cartoon, the ape man who wants to murder all humans.
Yeah, there were a couple of those cartoons. I never got into the more recent one, and the original one actually scared me. Like I was a little too young to watch it, and I saw just a couple of episodes that gave me nightmares. I was like, enough.
Justice League and Justice League Unlimited still hold up. They're very good cartoons, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the Secret World.
Yeah.
But we do have to fill time somehow, because this is a very long LP.
Yes. And ultimately, as much as there is plenty to talk about, there's only so much lore we can pack in, and there's only so many obscure topics I can dig up that have anything to do with this situation. Like, right now, what's coming to mind is like the nature of actual witch hunts, literal witch hunts. That's something that's relevant to this area, but not yet, not here.
Yeah, not until we meet the witch. There is one voice actor in this you will like. You might know him because Tuvok shows up. I'm not joking. They literally have Tuvok show up.
That's fascinating.
He isn't called Tuvok, but just his voice and his cadence and his appearance, and you're like, yeah, that's Tuvok.
That's not what I would have expected, but then this game deliberately does a lot of that, just in a very different manner.
Well, they never say Tuvok, but they do make a Star Trek reference.
Of course they do. Send you around, have you pick up pages of the Ansem report. Looking around, I remember. All right, we're digging for things to talk about. Did you know that leaves have a different chemical composition in many parts of North America and many parts of Europe? It's like they actually break down differently. I remember talking to a Swede once who was like kind of baffled at the idea of like raking leaves into a pile and jumping in them, because over there they just turn into mush with the slightest amount of water. It's just tragic, but such is life, I guess.
Yeah, I finished this mini quest I have, and then I do one more quest, and then the video is finished.
Mm-hmm.
But the quest we do is very simple. It's Zombies 101. This is my favorite shell type. It's explosive, so it does damage, and then it does a second amount of damage.
Yeah, and I can see the skip there, which is very nice. When that happens, it's just basically an extra little attack, and it's a nice little gift. I was hearing, man, I've said this already, but how many volunteer firefighters did they have in this town?
Whenever I see the volunteer firefighter, I keep thinking of the Series of Unfortunate Events books, which ended so poorly.
I never got into those.
After building up so much.
I never managed.
The books built, and then ended with a terrible allegory for the Garden of Eden.
It's one of those things that they just could not possibly stick the landing.
Yes, it ended up being like that. He built up this weird world of mystery, and then yeah.
Yeah, it's easier to set a mood than to give a satisfying conclusion.
Ain't this a heck of a thing? 3 years without firing a shot, other than putting down some animal got itself hit by a truck. These past nights, we've gone through bullets like candy at Halloween. I used that jail cell to dry out old paperwork mostly. Well, Bill Dexter when he'd had a bad one. Now I've got all these folks good as locked in here, and no sleeping it off for the morning either. The way things are headed, I'm seeing us outlasting our supplies. Not by much, if it comes to that. Andy finds what he can, but with the cruisers stuck propping up the barricade... So I'm obliged to anyone who'll poke around town a piece. Bring in the essentials. We can call it requisitioning. I don't think the store owners will be writing this one off as an act of God.
I always
And
wondered.
here we get to visit some of the places around the town, and I will tell you the references.
Yeah. I always wondered why, because if Sheriff Bannerman ever tried to negotiate with any of the Secret Worlders, it's like, I know she doesn't have much to offer, but she at least has a place for them to stay and potentially supplies to give them. And
Well, do we really need supplies? I mean, I don't even know if Gaia affected need to eat.
I think we do have to eat. I think bees do. At least I know they can eat. And I think bees have to eat. I think they're tougher than normal humans, but they still die. They just come back to life due to the bees. So you can probably starve to death as one, or die of dehydration. They can also sell it. They can also just sell information. What kind of people lived in what kind of house, or owned what kind of store, just where people can just dig up stuff to sell, or things to eat, or if they do need them, supplies, because not every person in the secret world is a bee. And oh man, are they so salty about that? So there are some people who are just so suspicious of the bees and the faction hubs that it's just just adorable. It's sweet.
They're jealous. I mean, just imagine, like, the literal world spirit Gaia has said, "Nah, you're not good enough."
And
This story is Call of the Wild, which is a Jack London reference.
it's like you've spent being in the societies again. Like there's at least one character. She looks like she's in maybe her 60s, and though she keeps fit and she keeps in fighting shape. And she's, judging by what she talks about, she's at least 100 years old and still regularly participates in combat. And she's not a bee. She just has a mixture of good genetics and very assorted magic. And meanwhile, these budget Sephiroth rolls in more immortal and more powerful than she could ever be, and she is just it just stings a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That was Flag's Pharmacy, named after Rando Flag from The Stand and the Dark Tower books.
Have you ever read the Dark Tower books? I never.
No, I never got into them. I love The Stand, at least the first half. That first half of The Stand where everything's collapsing is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I hear. There are certain things I can't read, and from everything I hear, the first half of The Stand is absolutely not one of them. Is absolutely one of them. But it's one of those things that starts out really dramatic and then goes kind of philosophical, spiritual at the end, I think.
You seem to have produced an unqualified success.
Yes. I'd ask why you can't read it, but that might be personal.
Long story short, let's just say I had a bad winter a few years back, and there's some things that happened to my body it's the reason why I don't play video games anymore, because the tendons in my arms ended up getting damaged. But I have a history degree, and I ended up stumbling into doing deep dives into the nature of massacres of Native Americans. And I dug too greedily and too deep, and I came out once after that paper was in, I got a C on it in grad school, which is embarrassing. I literally was diagnosed with PTSD. It was just a little too much. And that's one of the things I can't. If character death is something I just cannot stand, especially random and character death is just for shock value or for not at all foreshadowed. So I can't. And I understand the first part of The Stand is that's not all it is, but that's very heavily it's people dying over and over again.
Yes, it's the collapse of civilization, and there are scenes where he goes this person died needlessly because there were no doctors, and I mean, I guess if that triggers you, that triggers you.
You never know. It's I'm. By the way, for those of you who are interested, I'm currently running I'm just started a LP of a game called Katawa Shoujo, which you may have heard of, which talks about the nature of disability and someone who has more than one of those things.
Okay, but that was all the time we have.
Yep.
So I'm Mycroft Holmes.
I'm Falconeer111, and see you next time.